So we get a bunch of things that happened today, and of course it was gonna happen this way. Like, let's be fair. We knew this was gonna happen, right? The day was going to be red, something crazy was gonna happen, and everybody wasn't gonna agree. 12 people to agree unanimously in today's America, that ain't gonna happen, bro. So let's go through essentially the stuff that happened today as far as in the court. Then we'll get on what happened with the juror. We'll actually read the deliberation stuff. And I will tell y'all honestly, bruh, what I think. Let's go. This versus Sean P. Diddy Combs, day 33. 12-member jury charged in deliberations. These are more updates coming up. Jury deliberations will begin shortly. Jurors are facing a heavy task of reviewing all 5 federal charges against them: racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of ex-trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. The 12-member jury is made up of 8 men and 4 women, aged 30 to 74, hailing from Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester County. Their professional backgrounds span from investment analysis to massage therapists, offering a diverse cross-section of New York City life. Last week, Thursday, prosecutors wrapped up their closing arguments by portraying Combs as the leader of a criminal enterprise, emphasizing this point with testimony from more than 30 witnesses, including Cassie Ventura, and 2 anonymous accusers identified as Jane and Mia. Then on Friday, Diddy's defense, led by attorney Mark Agnifilo, argued that the prosecution's case lacked solid evidence and claimed the government was unfairly targeting the Bad Boy Records founder. Today, Judge Aram Subramanian will deliver instructions to the jury. The decision-making process could take hours or several days. A unanimous verdict is required to convict. Judge Aram Subramanian has taken the bench and proceedings are set to begin. All rise. Judge, I'm going to read you the charge. It's lengthy, but I'll do my best to keep it engaging. At this point, you've heard all the evidence and the closing arguments from both sides. Now, it's my duty to instruct you on the law as it applies to this case. Judge, remember, the evidence consists of the testimony you heard, the answers given, and the exhibits that were presented. The attorney's arguments are not evidence. You, the jurors, are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts in this case. Now, what is reasonable doubt? It is not a guess or a hunch. It's a doubt based on reason and common sense. After you've carefully considered all the evidence as jurors, it is your job to evaluate each witness's ability to assess the truth and significance of their testimony, consider their demeanor, consistency, and reliability. In other words, size them up. That's your decision to make. Sean Combs has been formally charged in an incident, but let me be clear, an indictment is not evidence. It's simply a formal accusation. Now, let me walk you through the charges. Count 1. Allegedly from 2004 to 2024, the defendant operated a racketeering enterprise. Between 2009 and 2018, he is charged with ex-trafficking of Cassandra Ventura. Count 3, also between 2009 and 2018, he is accused of transporting individuals, including but not limited to Ventura, for the purpose of prostitution. From 2019 to 2024, the charge is sex trafficking of an individual identified as Jane. Within the same period, he is also charged with transporting individuals, including Jane, for the purpose of prostitution. Each count is separate and must be considered individually. As for the charge of attempt, the government must prove both intent and that the defendant took a substantial step toward committing the crime. Mere intention alone is not enough. To find someone guilty of aiding and abetting, the government must prove that the defendant knowingly took some action to assist, encourage, or facilitate the commission of a crime. Mere presence or association is not enough. Now, regarding the RICO charge, count 1, the prosecution must establish that between 2024 and 2004, there was an agreement between 2 or more individuals to conduct a racketeering enterprise that affected interstate commerce. They must also prove that the defendant joined the conspiracy and personally committed at least 2 predicate acts. These could include crimes such as sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, or other offenses listed under RICO statutes. The government doesn't need to show a formal written agreement. A mutual understanding to cooperate is enough, and you may infer its existence from the circumstances of the case. As the saying goes, actions may speak louder than words. You are allowed to consider the behavior and acts of anyone you find to be a participant in the alleged enterprise to determine whether there was a shared plan or purpose. As Judge Subramanian continues speaking, a few people in the courtroom appear to be nodding off. One is even snoring. Combs is sitting quietly, focused and attentive. Behind him are all 6 of his adult children in their usual seats. If you determine that the Combs enterprise existed, you must then decide whether it continued in a substantially similar form from 2004 to 2024. The individuals involved may have changed over time, but continuity in structure and purpose is key. Regarding the defendant, you must also determine whether he knew of the enterprise's existence and knowingly participated in it. The government alleges 8 predicate offenses under RICO: kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, and intent to distribute narcotics. To meet the legal requirement, the prosecution must prove at least 2 of these offenses occurred within a 10-year period. Kidnapping, not considered kidnapping if the victim consented, but consent can be withdrawn at any time. Arson under California law involves willfully or maliciously setting or causing a fire. That's interesting. Bribery of a witness occurs when someone gives or promises a bribe to a person giving or about to give information to law enforcement with the intent to unlawfully influence that person. Witness tampering under 18 U.S.C. 1512b3 doesn't require the target to actually be afraid or the existence of knowing threat is enough. Forced labor under 18 U.S.C. 1589a involves the use of force or physical restraint. Consent, once given, can be withdrawn, turning a situation into forced labor. Sex trafficking has the same legal definition as outlined in counts 2 and 4. Transportation for prostitution is defined the same as in counts 3 and 5. Regarding the distribution of narcotics, including the substance named here, government must prove it was done knowingly and intentionally. Distribution means an actual transfer to another person. Possession doesn't require physical custody. Control over the substance is enough. For RICO, the statute of limitations is 5 years. Therefore, the government must prove the enterprise continued beyond 2019. If they fail to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. On counts 2 and 4, which is sex trafficking to transport, means to carry or move a person from one place to another. Reckless disregard, such as deliberately ignoring obvious signs, satisfies the legal standard. Judge, you must agree unanimously on at least one specific instance of sex trafficking. Counts 3 and 5, which are transportation for prostitution, such as knowingly arranging or facilitating transportation for the purpose of prostitution, even by buying a ticket, is enough. Prostitution doesn't have to be the primary purpose. It's defined as engaging in sexual activity in exchange for money or something of value. Again, you must be unanimous on at least one specific act of transportation. Lastly, the government must prove that at least one act occurred within the jurisdiction of the Southern District of New York, SDNY, which includes 8 counties. We're now in the final stretch. Let me leave you with some important instructions as you prepare to deliberate when considering expert testimony. Remember, just because I allowed it into evidence does not mean you must accept it as true. It's up to you to decide how much weight, if any, to give to it. The testimony of government officials should be treated like that of any other witness. It carries no more or less weight simply because of their position. Witnesses who testified under immunity should be examined with greater caution than other witnesses. Keep in mind that charts, summaries, and demonstrative aids shown during the trial are not evidence and won't be available to you in the jury room. Some witnesses were allowed to use pseudonyms. This should not influence your judgment of their credibility. Evaluate them as you would any other witness. The defendant chose not to testify, which is his legal right. You must not draw any inference from that choice or hold it against him. Voluntary intoxication may, in some cases, affect whether the defendant had the intent required to commit a RICO predicate offense. You may have heard the names of people who were not called to testify. Each side had an equal chance to call witnesses. Do not speculate about why someone wasn't called or what they might have said. If you took notes, they are for your personal use only. And remember, you are to consider only the evidence and arguments presented within the 4 walls of this courtroom. No outside reading or research is allowed. Do not communicate about this case in any form on social media platforms like X, Instagram, or YouTube. If you come across anything related to the case, report it to my deputy immediately. Above all, Guard against bias, including implicit bias. These unconscious thoughts can affect how we interpret information, even when we don't realize it. You will now retire to deliberate. Each of you must make up your own mind after full and fair discussion with your fellow jurors. Your verdict must be unanimous. If you find yourselves divided at any point, do not reveal how you are split. Any communications with the court, including questions or the final verdict, must come from the foreperson and must be in writing. As for the alternative jurors, you are not required to stay, but please provide your phone number to my deputy. You may still be called upon if a replacement is needed or when a verdict is reached. The alternatives are jurors 234, 247, 292, 321, and 330, which are those seated in the top row. Please do not read or follow any news coverage related to this trial. If any appears, I want to express my deep gratitude for your time, patience, and service over these past 2 months, or more for some of you. Before you go, my deputy will share my personal contact details. I'd be happy to give you a tour of the courthouse sometime. You are free to deliberate as long as you feel necessary. If you wish to stay past 5 p.m., that decision is entirely up to you. This is your process. Take the time you need. There's no rush. What matters is that you reach a verdict you all stand by. The 12 jurors have now entered the deliberation room to begin weighing the case. Deliberations officially begin at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time and will continue until the jury either reaches a unanimous verdict or declares a deadlock. The jury selected juror number 5 to be their foreperson. Adjourned. Some minutes ago, the jury has sent me a note. Combs' lawyers and prosecutors had already returned to the court and went through the note before Combs got the chance to go through it. The judge came in minutes later. The judge says juror 25 may not be able to follow instructions. AUSA Comey said it's sensitive, while Agnifilo suggests telling the jury that it's still early and to alert the court if issues continue. Dennis Combs had loud cheers from Combs supporters as she walked past them into the courtroom. I'm going to step off the bench now. I want both parties to meet and confer. We'll reconvene at 2 p.m. and I'll decide then how to proceed with this matter. Judge Arm has asked if there was an agreed response, to which Agnifilo said no. AUSA Comey said Slavic had emailed it to Chambers. Though it's not on the docket, Judge asked about the defense proposal. Comey said it's in Slavic's email too. Interesting. Court has been adjourned. Before that, Judge sent the jury a note in response. I received your note. I remind every juror of their duty to deliberate and their obligation to follow my instruction on the law. With that instruction in mind, please continue deliberating. Sean Combs was escorted back into the courtroom by U.S. Marshals because another note had been received from the jury. We received 2 notes from the jury. The first task: if someone requests a controlled substance and the other person hands it over, does that count as distribution? And the second note simply says they plan to end at 5 p.m. I suggest we direct them to the jury charge in response. AUSA Comey, we've already prepared a response to the legal question. They can leave. Agnifilo, we also have a response ready. Judge, all right, let's bring in the jury and excuse them for the day. All rise. Jurors enter. Judge, per your note, it's now 5 p.m., so we'll go ahead and dismiss you for today. As for your question, we'll provide an answer tomorrow morning. No need to come into the courtroom first. Just head straight to deliberations at 9 a.m. Jurors leave. Judge, Ms. Comey, I believe the response should be simple. Yes, followed by a reference back to the jury instructions. Agnifilo, I'd like a bit more time to go over this with my team. My initial reaction is that this doesn't align with our position. Judge, please confer with the government and let us know by 6 p.m. if you can agree on the wording. Court adjourned. All right, as it goes right now, because I don't think anything's going to happen right now as we chill. I'm not seeing anything. So if anything pops up, then it pops up. But right now, I'm not really seeing nothing. But one juror basically said, I think they don't agree that a RICO was proved. So to me, that seems like the hold, because check this out. This most likely means there is a holdout and the rest of the jurors want the judge to strong arm that juror into submission. I hope the judge resists. The law does not require that a verdict be reached. Just if one is reached, it must be unanimous. But nobody ever wants to tell jurors that because, God forbid, it hurts the government's ability to convict. So this is the Diddy daily stuff, right? FYI, the judge is still mulling over how exactly to respond to this note. Importantly, there has been no discussion yet of exactly what was meant by the note. We're going to go over here. 1:30 p.m. Eastern, jury note. The note indicates that there is a belief that Juror 25 cannot follow the judge's instructions. Judges ask for more information. More to come ASAP. Follow for our update. Now, some of y'all are probably like, well, Nash, show us that sheet real quick because that sheet is everything. Well, I'm going to give you the sheet, and I want y'all to understand this. The reason why I believe what I believe is basically on the first question. Take a look. So here goes the verdict sheet, right? So United States of America versus Sean Combs, count 1, racketeering conspiracy. How do you find the defendant? Guilty, not guilty. If and only if you find the defendant guilty of count 1, which types of racketeering acts do you unanimously find were involved in the offense? Acts involving kidnapping, acts involving arson, acts involving bribery, acts involving witness tampering, acts involving forced labor, acts involving trafficking, acts involving transportation for purposes of prostitution, acts of involving drug distribution. If and only if you find the defendant guilty of count 1, did the pattern of racketeering activity include trafficking of Cassandra Ventura? If and only if you find the defendant guilty of count 1, did the pattern of racketeering activity include trafficking of Jane? Count 2, trafficking of Cassandra Ventura. How do you find the defendant? Count 3, Mann Act transportation, Cassandra Ventura. How do you find the defendant? Count 4, trafficking of Jane. How do you find the defendant? Count 5, Mann Act transportation, Jane. How do you find the defendant? Now, what does Seti Nash think, and then what do I believe is going to happen? I don't believe that with all of this stuff that happened, what they simply put it in as far as layman terms go, I don't think that was proven at all. I don't. I just don't. The way that the government painted this was as a monster who did this, who did everything, who under the sun was drugging people, hitting people without their consent. Bruh, to me, all of this stuff was consenting to. Grown people, Diddy with a lifestyle we never heard in our lives. I never thought I would ever hear anything like, I didn't think this type of stuff even existed. If you do and you did, get some therapy, please. From me to you, get some damn therapy. If y'all know stuff like this going on, where somebody is essentially bringing people in to sleep with their with their girlfriend, just to sit there and jack off, essentially, bro, what? I never thought I would ever see anything. Well, I didn't see anything, but I never thought I would read anything like this. So even though it's a different lifestyle, it just doesn't sound illegal. It just doesn't. Nothing that they said to me sounds illegal. I think Cassie was the one who blew up that car. I think Cassie was the one who messed that car up, because Kid Cudi said basically, I felt like she played both of us. I don't think Cassie is dumb. She walked away with $30 million and then a cool $7 million from the hotel. Cassie is intelligent. She was able to bag a dude that's essentially a trainer. So she's never going to be out here looking like Seti Nash in the body as far as the stomach go. You feel what I'm saying? Now, she might get some, you know what I mean? But Cassie ain't going to run around here looking fat. And then to have a dude that essentially you can have a bunch of kids with who didn't care about none of this stuff. Because secretly, I think it turned him on too. FaceTime to while you getting smashed by Diddy. Now, I do believe the whole entire thing of kidnapping, I think they proved it. Do I believe she was kidnapped? No. Do I believe he was scared of the publicity and all this crap? Hell yeah. Because the effed up part about a lot of this stuff is a lot of these women go with this crap because of the lifestyle that's provided. It's basically called the shit that comes with it. Is it right? Hell no. Is it wrong? Hell yeah. But for people to sit here and say certain things, it's like, bruh, this lasted for 11 years according to the government. This lasted 11 years. If it was really, 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 in my opinion, really, really that damn bad, she would still be there. And they would have busted the door and saved her. And this would have been a tell-all type of tale. But the fact she had the balls, titty balls, of course, to step up and say, you know what, bruh? You held me back. She was never talented like that. The song Me and You, if you got 15s, 12, or some crispy 10s with that pop, that song knock. If y'all know what that knock means in California, it just means it is a very acoustically pleasing song for your speakers. That's what knock means. You're welcome. But bruh, I'm not seeing what the government is portraying personally. But let's get to it. The way in which they broke it down with so many things, it's like he has to be guilty of something. But like I told y'all, I think it ends in a mistrial. I think it ends in a mistrial. And I think that actually proves it. Because to me, when it gets to the freaking deliberation, let me make sure I pull this up so I can say this accurately, right? Here we go right here. On February 4th, 2025, the government moved to compel compliance with the December 2024 subpoena for Device 1 cell phone. The government became aware of Device 1 due to messages from June 2024 recovered from a different device. Combs refused to comply with the December subpoena and makes two arguments in response to the government's motion to compel. First, he argues that the June 2024 messages, which prompted the government's inquiry, were privileged. The court rejected that argument on March 11, 2025 order filed under seal. Second, he asserts that the production of Device 1 is protected by the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. The government responds to that argument by invoking the foregone conclusion doctrine. The Fifth Amendment allows for narrow privilege against the production, United States versus Friedman. The privilege applies when producing documents tactically concedes the existence of the papers demanded their possession or controlled by the defendant, as well as a defendant's belief that the papers are described in a subpoena. Anyways, I'm not really sure. Before applying these factors to this case, it is necessary to consider what the Fifth Amendment privilege applies to in the circumstances as the Supreme Court made clear nearly 5 decades. Okay. Whatever. So let's go to the actual thing. I just like this just dropped, so it is what it is. How do you find a defendant? Racketeering conspiracy. I think juror number 25 basically said not guilty. And when they said not guilty, everybody else probably was shocked. And they're like basically bullying that person. Or they can say guilty and everybody else is like, nah, not guilty. Either way, it doesn't really matter. If you have a difference of opinion in that jury room, as they said, you have the right to hold on to that opinion. To be swayed and all of that crap and everything, that's what the freaking lawyers is for. So the judge ain't gonna kick him off. If the judge kicks him off, by the way, bruh, that right there is going to be insane. And the law is going to have its way with this crap, because basically they're going to go ahead and file another motion basically to redo this shit. So I think basically they said, how do you find the defendant? Not guilty. I think one person said not guilty. I don't think it was the other way around. I think everybody in there was going to go in there and look at that sheet and essentially say, prove, not prove, prove, not prove. I believe Puffy is literally looking at being basically convicted. But I don't think everybody was going to agree on that one thing. But if they in there deliberating and somebody like whatever and all this stuff, all right. But as far as that go, that's good for Puffy. I think a mistrial is on its way. That's what I believe is going to happen. Because one person hold out is everything, because they may actually convince others to take their side. But Y'all let me know your thoughts on this one, man. I'll try to get this one out as early as possible. We got a lot of shooting the videos and stuff like that going on in Atlanta as far as what we got going. Be subscribed to the Setty Nash Clips channel so you can catch all of that. I'm about to change the game. Just me, myself, and my team. You dig?